Right, there you go. Okay, welcome to the Monroe Planning Commission regular meeting for Monday, April 22nd, 2024. It is 7:01 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Hannah, would you take roll, please?
I would love to. Commissioners present and establishing a quorum. Commissioners Blair, Bull, Dawkins, Lockhart, Lowe, Nugent, and Petrino.
Thank you very much. Okay. This item 3 on the agenda, public comments. This is a time for people to speak to the Planning Commission in person on issues related to the city of Monroe, except those issues subject to a public hearing. When invited to speak, please approach the podium or seat and state your name and association with the city or area of residence. The timer will then be started. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Ms. Davis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Davis. I live in Monroe, just outside. Anyway, I've been expressing some comments previously to you folks, and today I brought some additional information that you guys can take home and review and kind of understand where I'm coming from. I'm a real estate agent that's been active in this community for almost 29 years. And I know the land really well. And I took a look through the buildable lands report that was originated in 2019. And they pulled that forward and updated it, of course. But I really believe that the land capacity that the county is identifying as being available for home growth in the urban growth area and in the city is very overstated. The urban growth area is smaller, and so I'm addressing that tonight. And I'll probably come back at a later time to talk to you more about areas in the city based on NIG's proposals and whatnot. So what I did was I looked at the few areas in Monroe that are in the urban growth area, and you're gonna see this map in your packet. There's 3 areas by urban growth area currently, and there's 2 areas on here in blue that are also docket proposals on file with the county, and the county council is addressing those currently. And they're of course the ones that make the ultimate decision whether those areas come into the city or into the urban growth area or not. So I shared this with them, and we'd certainly like to see the city in favor of our proposal. We represent Mon 2, which is north of the city up Chain Lake Road. It's an area that's surrounded by the city already on 3 sides. It has all the streets, all the utilities, everything is already there. It's an R5 zone. It's 22 acres. There's 1 habitable house on the site, and the rest is available for development. The DEIS has already been done with the county, and they say that there could be 70 homes here. It could be more homes if the city would implement like a master plan community that provides a variety of densities, which I think would be in the best interest of Monroe, because then you're providing new housing on large acreage parcels rather than displacing people in town through upzoning and that kind of thing. So I went through each of the areas that's currently in the UGA and identify the parcels. You're going to see numbers on each of these that shows where the county thinks there's additional capacity. And so I've written some comments on each one that says why I don't think that's going to work. Mostly they're critical areas that impact these sites. They're not on sewer. They have access to septic, areas that have declined to annex for years and years and years. And, you know, I think it makes all the sense in the world to include other UGA areas or other expansions of the UGA in a time where we really, really need housing. And we need to rely on large developers and large parcels to make that happen. We can't rely on small lots, mom and pop, you know, ADUs or whatnot, or small builders even. It's just not going to build the capacity at any, you know, with any expediency that we need today.
We're running up against our time limit.
Yep.
And you'll
Yeah.
leave, if the planning commission wish to take information, you'll leave them on the corner there?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Excuse me about that. So there's eight packet here.
Okay.
Those are available for you guys.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4 on the agenda, approval of minutes. We actually have minutes from 2 prior meetings. And start with March 25th meeting. I had 1 edit that I notified Hannah about. I believe that's made in the roll call section. Any other edits or comments, March 25th minutes? Melanie?
I move that we approve the minutes from March 25th, 2024, with the amendment that Commissioner Bowl had already mentioned.
Okay.
Commissioners in favor, please say aye. Bob? Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving on. Last meeting, April 8th, planning commission minutes. Any comments, edits, questions? Melanie,
I move that we approve the minutes from April 8th, 2024.
thank you very much.
Second.
Carla seconds. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So, next item up, section 5, old business. Amy Bright is back with us discussing downtown commercial zoning district, chapter 22.22 MMC.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowl. I'm gonna share my screen.
And this is your slide deck from the 11th of April from EDAP.
This one's for planning commission.
Okay.
For today, but it's similar to that
Similar,
of
okay, good.
EDAB, correct? Yeah, so I'm just bringing back our previous discussion regarding downtown commercial zoning, in the promenade. What I did is I went through, I listened to your comments and concerns and we'll talk about those tonight and give you some more information. So just a refresher, this is for the red area on the screen, that's the promenade. So the area is first floor facing Main Street, commercial buildings on the first floor facing Main Street. I added an overhead view here of those specific properties that we were talking about before. So it encompasses the bank and the chiropractor just to the north near the post office. And I worked with Deborah over with this list here. I think it's really important to understand what the long, midterm and short-term goals are for this area. Because we've talked about them in other meetings. So in the path, our long-term goals, and remember, we don't have a budget for this set yet. This is a new property to the city. But our long-term use goals are either a festival lot, public restrooms have been identified in many of our plans in the past. So we added that here, public parking. I think that there was some other discussions, someone mentioned like an Etsy style, fair there. A lot of different long-term opportunities. In the midterm, it could be used as a visitor information center. The chamber could locate there, a business incubator, sort of like what we just talked about. An art studio could go there. Again, public parking, and in the midterm, we could have some, our human services outreach staff in that area. And then for the short term, which is sort of what we've been discussing lately, is the government use during our remodel, which we have about 18 months left of the remodel of City Hall. And currently, David Hose is in there working, or he will be in there soon, working on his mural. So like we said before, the bank building is about 3,300 square feet. I didn't get any photos of the inside of it, I'm sorry. And that was a question from last time. I also added a photo of the chiropractor building just for reference, about 1,300 square feet. One of the concerns, I don't recall if it was here or at EDAB, but it was that if, let's say, the court wanted to move in to the bank building, maybe they would want to stay and they would feel like, oh, this is a new cozy home. So this is actually, it's small here. I'm sure you can see it bigger on your screens, but this is the city hall remodel. And the orange area at the bottom is dedicated to the courts. They have a lobby with a large courtroom and many different offices and meeting spaces. So they're getting about 4,000 square feet in the new city hall. They got grant funding for this portion of the remodel, and so this is definitely where their permanent home will be. I wanted to go over a little bit more in detail about the conditional use permit process, and so this is the purpose, the conditional use permit process. So those they're uses that require a level of review and opportunity for public input that is greater than that required for permitted uses. The purpose of a conditional use permit is to assure by allowing for public process and for the imposition of special conditions and requirements that conditional uses are compatible with the uses permitted by this title and that the purpose of this title is maintained. Conditional uses are a type 3 permit, and that means they go out for public notice. Staff prepares a staff report and it goes to a hearing examiner. It's a public hearing. Then there's a decision and then it's reported. There's a lot of criteria. I'm not going to read the whole section here. I copied it out of the code, and this is what staff looks at, staff today and in the future, for what they need to, how they will be assessing the project. It needs to be consistent with the UDR and the comp plan. And this is just a big list here, but at that point we can make conditions. Then we had some questions about membership organizations. This is the definition of membership organizations. It's pretty long and lengthy. We do have some membership organizations already in the downtown area. The chamber is a membership organization. It is located in an adjacent zone in the historic main zone. And also the Historical Society is a membership organization. So there are membership organizations are allowed conditionally in all the adjacent zones to the promenade. Again, we talked about this before. This shows the requested changing membership organizations from accessory in the promenade to conditional. Currently, membership organizations are permitted and they can come in and there's no conditions. They're permitted as an accessory use and there are no conditions, so they can move in as long as they have a primary use. Here are the list of items that we were suggesting to add conditional uses for courts, government administration buildings, and US post offices. At our last meeting, there was discussion about adding police stations to this list. I presented this in front of EDAB, and they also requested that we add police stations to this list as well.
And I think a couple of commissioners have mentioned not necessarily police stations, but, you know, a smaller version of a police presence. That would be a
Substation.
I guess that's, yeah.
substation, yeah.
Right.
As an additional line, is that a possibility still there?
We did discuss that internally. It would really just be the same. I don't know if you have anything to add with that, but police station with a substation would fall in there as well. Is it more to ensure that it doesn't become a full police station?
No, I think this is very helpful in that the way you've outlined the long-term plan is still the plan because the public was really happy about the purchase of this property. And they just want to make sure that the long-term plan is still the plan and that everything is focused on that. I think if we would have really stepped back and think about a developer buying that lot and they would have to generate some income on their investment until their final project got built, then we could have understood why the city, wants to, build up, make some use out of it, some economic use, because it's taxpayer money that's funding the purchase and the ongoing maintenance. Just because it's sitting there doesn't mean it's not costing anything, right? So, once we, thought about that, it does make sense to allow additional uses to get the utmost use out of it. So I think, these things do make sense. I think they just wanted assurances that, hey, the public is gonna get their full value out of it eventually in the final form, whatever it takes apart from public building.
Yes, what you said is kind of at least where I was standing on things. I was the one who had mentioned courts, and maybe that was a bad example, just because I know that there's a really nice court being built. But it was kind of more just like the long term, what's stopping something in the future, whether it's the police station, like, is there a plan? Because the police station's next on the remodel list, right? With the city.
That is my understanding.
And is there like a current plan on where the police will be operating during that time?
So that's currently under conversation. My understanding is the police department has done their needs assessment of how much space they need. As for location, where are we? Behind us. We still own property. So, that's part of the process they're going through right now.
So that's another thing too, is like, and allowing the conditional use. So we talk about 18 months from now that city hall and the courts will be done. But then after that is the police. So then are the police potentially gonna move into that space after that and extend it out for however long that takes? And so when we're talking about like the midterm use and the short-term use and then the long-term use, is there a timeline? And obviously there's no funding for that right now. So there's nothing that's like solidified. But is there like an intentional timeline with that for what's short-term versus midterm versus long-term? Because there's nothing on there. And so what's the stuff? And then, after and this is all hypothetical and theoretical. This is just the stuff I'm thinking of. Because there's intention with this lot. And then there's obviously the layer where the city wants to protect its investment. So I totally understand why to put something in there short-term while everything else is planned out. But the remodel could happen and then maybe another city facility, either the voters decide that they want to remodel, the fire department. And it's completely hypothetical. The fire department is next. So then maybe the fire department moves there temporary and that's extended out another 2 years. And then maybe there's a fire or a flood or something that's unexpected that happens, and you see where I'm going with that. And so that's kind of just my concern, is that what is there gonna be in place to stop? And yes, it's conditional, so these conversations may happen every single time somebody like the city wants to move something in there, because there'll be public input. But then there's still, even with public input, you can have 200 people show up in a room opposing it, and it doesn't guarantee that the decision's not still gonna be made. Opposing the majority that spoke up, so that's kind of where I'm standing with it. It's kind of my only hesitation with all of this. But that doesn't mean that I'm not in support of moving forward, because I know what the point is. I know what, it's just, is there some piece that we can put on that kind of assures that it's not gonna be something that just keeps getting extended. And 20 years from now, when we have a brand new comprehensive plan again, that there's still city departments of some kind in this building and it hasn't been utilized as a festival hall or whatever was going to happen.
You're really good points.
Yeah. There's nothing to stop it. And I do want to clarify, so we're very frank with you, a conditional use permit, it lives with the property once approved. So if a government administrative use is approved, it lives with the property. And I do want to also.
That means another one could go in the future without needing
Yes.
another conditional use
Yes.
permit. It doesn't mean.
The
they have
example
to
that
stay
Melanie just
forever.
gave us.
Yeah.
Also, I did want to let you know, Lance and I had quite an in-depth conversation on using the sunset clause. The concern with that, because that would be a potential tool to say, after the city moves out, these uses go away. The concern is if you have X number of uses go and you've created legal conformity, and that's also a challenge. And so his guidance was that we really not discuss that because that's not an appropriate tool. And then my understanding is based on the conversation at EDAB, there was a lot more comfort after Amy came back with the additional information. So I wanted to give you an update on that as well.
Yeah, so at EDAB, there's Janelle is on EDAB and she is with the chamber and, you know, having those, the potential of the chamber moving into that location. It was, the way I think it was presented originally was that we were talking about the VFW being, you know, a concern that we were only looking at them as a membership organization, but membership organizations is really broad. And so the chamber does fall into that. And so the chamber could not today locate in the downtown core of Monroe without being an accessory to somebody else.
We kind of touched on it, but I was just kind of wondering, so like the short-term, midterm, long-term use, like what time frame are we kind of categorizing those into? I'm not saying like a definite time, just kind of general.
This is really a brainstorming exercise
Okay,
that Deborah and I
so
went
maybe-
over. Nothing has been really solidified in
Okay.
any
So I
way.
don't know, like 18 months was like the short term and then.
Yeah,
It's in the long range plan from 2015. Actually, I think it's in the long range plan. Actually, it's in the downtown master plan from 2005. That a gathering space be identified in that general vicinity. So the opportunity came up and planning is hopefully going to happen soon to figure out what the long-term, and as Amy's mentioned, there's no funding for
Right, yeah.
turning it into whatever the community dreams it needs to be.
No, I understand that. I get that.
Yeah, and I do wanna, Brandy brought a really good point up at our last conversation about using the building today because it has space, right? So that could be something that is tossed out as if it's city property, it's public property. Is there a way that you can use it for meeting rooms for groups in the downtown now? So,
Randy?
So, back to the slide that's talking about the long-term use,
Oh,
midterm
yeah.
use, short-term use.
yes.
So which part of the language from the amendment covers all of those things? So is it the government administration buildings? Cause like business incubator, visitor information center. I mean, a lot of times the visitor information center is done by the chamber or something else like that, not the city so much. So an art studio, I mean, how are those things? What umbrella, are we putting those under?
Yeah, so under the short-term use, government use, so that would be the government administration building or police court, pretty much all those items that were on that list. Art studio is actually already permitted in the promenade, so it's public parking. And visitor information center would go under membership organizations. And then, yeah, so it's sort of just all, some of them are already permitted and then some of them we're asking to be conditional.
Well, how's his hand up?
Oh, thank you. Bob?
This is torturous for me because I have to continue to curb my enthusiasm about all these things because everything I see, I like. Most everything I see, I like. And I like the inclusion of the business incubator. I have some familiarity with that concept, and I think it's a really good economic driver, particularly for the downtown. But I'm not going to get too excited because we're talking theory now, but that's something that we want to keep in our toolkit. I like also the inclusion of the human services outreach. That's clearly needed. I want to go back to my concern about the post office. What was the genesis of including that in this plan? Is that just trying to be a good neighbor? Has the post office come to us and said we would like to have that land maybe for a bigger parking lot or something? What is the background of that item?
Sure. So the post office has no plans that we're aware of to expand. The reason we had discussed bringing it to your attention is that post offices generate a lot of foot traffic. And so that's one of the intents of the promenade. And so we're thinking that might be a use, although most likely not used, considering the post office exists right behind this parcel today.
It's kind of scary to me, but I understand the concept of that. Thank you.
So the thought process was that the city would own it and the federal government would lease it?
No. Just looking at the full breadth of possible uses and trying to bring foot traffic downtown. Even though it's already there, post offices typically are a high traffic generation use. And so we thought, we're looking at these uses, it's conditional on the other, consider it for the promenade.
And also just to reiterate that these conditional uses, yes, we are talking specifically with that city-owned building in mind, but this applies to the whole entire
Correct.
promenade
Mhm.
downtown, right? So if we put the post office in there and they want to put a substation at the other end of Main Street or the other end of the promenade, then that would be something that would be looked at as a potential conditional use. It doesn't necessarily have to be that particular property. It would be included for the whole promenade.
For the whole promenade, not just that one particular person.
Mhm. And that's a really good point, is this is whatever decision you choose to move forward with, it does apply to all properties that are in the promenade subzone.
Carla?
I put on the map, so the whole orange area, is that like designated a historic area? So we call it historic, so is that like it's designated historic? Or, and the promenade kind of goes through it?
So the promenade, think of it, in the dark orange you see on your screen,
Right,
it covers even the red area. So think
Right.
of it that way. And then the red area is really just an overlay on top of it. And it is only the business storefronts that face Main Street.
that are historic.
Within that
historic
area.
building.
Mhm.
Okay,
Consider the promenade.
That's the promenade.
okay, that's what I thought, that's why I was kind of a little confused reading that, I wanted to clarify. And then I was talking with somebody who told me that if you're going down Main, if you cross over Blakely, that side is no longer, even though your storefront, not considered. I don't know if that's correct or not. It was hard for me to tell, I was trying to see where. it wasn't,
Blakely is here, so it is included.
That's what I thought,
So
looking at it to me.
Madison, sorry. So what that says.
Yeah.
Madison is here at the edge.
So is it stop at Blakely?
It stops at Madison.
Madison, okay.
So just past Candido's, the red building,
Mhm.
that's where it ends.
Okay, on both sides?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, I was just trying to, I was looking at the map and I'm zooming in, I was just trying to make sure I have it all correct, thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
So currently the chamber and the historic, this, society, they don't need a conditional, or how do they?
So yeah, the Historical Society is already there, so they would be existing non-conforming.
Okay.
And then the chamber is not located, in the promenade. currently. So if they were to locate there, they would have to be accessory to something else. Or if we make this change, they would go through a conditional use permit process. So, So this is similar to before. I just put a check mark with EDAB. They have attached to your packet as a recommendation, well, the minutes from the meeting where they recommended that planning commission move forward with the proposal with adding police stations as a conditional use as well.
Brandon?
I appreciate all the points of ours that you guys rolled back up and gave us the information on. I feel a lot more comfortable about it. I do like the idea that it would be some different uses that might bring more foot traffic, might expand some of the ability for services to be located downtown. Concern is how long, but, I think the conditional use part of it, having it get approved for each person that's gonna be requesting it, I like it. I'm ready to move forward with it.
Do you have a question, Kelsey?
Yeah, I do. If this was a no, is there any way that that can happen by like, there's no way. Right now the court could come to the city and ask for permission?
Today, are you asking, I just
Like-
want to make sure that I understand, are you asking if the court wanted to move in there today, would they be able to?
Yeah, in any way.
They would not,
There's
it's not permitted.
Melanie?
So do we need the formal action then?
Yeah, it
Like
is,
the motion, okay,
it is on your screen, but it's not on the screen on your computer, I
Okay.
apologize.
that's okay. Then I motion that we direct staff to prepare a formal amendment package for the, commission's consideration. Set a public hearing date, complete the environmental review and agency outreach process with the addition of police stations. Do I need to specify that? That's what.
Brandon?
One second.
Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not seeing any opposition? Excellent. Thanks for bringing that back. Presentation was very nice, very helpful.
Thanks.
Alright. We do
Can I ask
have-
a quick question for you?
Sure, Bob.
Is that going to include the human services / police station
So.
as presented in our presentation?
Yeah, so, when the city council, so the next step is, Amy will prepare a complete formal application that will come back to the planning commission. That includes a public hearing, so that we'll notify, the last time we did this, we specifically notified in addition to a generic, public hearing notice, we also notified the building owners and the businesses in the downtown core, so we're doing our due diligence to reach out to them. Then you'll hold your public hearing, you'll deliberate on what you heard and send a formal recommendation to the city council. If the city council decides, yep, this is a good idea, we're gonna do this, then we have the ability to have the police or a substation with human services. At this point in time, there's not a full conversation of who gets to go downtown or if anybody goes downtown. We just need the ability. The zoning has to change to even have that conversation.
Just to add on to that, then we have the ability to get an application
Yes.
for a conditional use permit, which then goes to a hearing in front of a hearing examiner.
That's a process.
One step at a time.
Yes, exactly. But today, that's not even, we can't even have that discussion.
Next item up, new business, we have the community development report from March. Hannah?
Okay. Back with another monthly report for everyone. As always, starting at the top and working our way down. We'll just go over the highlights first. We had another month with 0 single-family building permits issued. And 4 commercial TIs, that's down from 5 in February. We had 141 inspections in March, that's down from 202 in February. For code enforcement, we had 2 cases opened and 8 cases closed. Business licenses, we had 203 total. That's up from 176 in February. For pre-application meetings, we had 4 pre-apps. We had 2 for accessory dwelling units. One was for the Tate Davis ADU. It's a proposed 1-bed, 1-bath accessory dwelling unit on Blakely. And the other is also on Blakely. It's for the Novak ADU, turning an existing garage into a detached ADU. Another pre-app was for 4 tenant improvement projects on 172nd Drive Southeast. And then an pre-app for a conditional use permit and a change of use to change a residential house into a naturopathic and massage clinic. This is the large white house that was for sale on 179th Avenue Southeast, kind of by where our new offices are. Our project highlight is the Sky Valley Food Bank addition. The Sky Valley Food Bank have completed work on the addition to their building. The application for the addition and an additional tenant improvement for the existing building was approved in October of 2022. Work covered by this permit included construction of a just over 1,000 square foot addition to their warehouse to be used for admin services and a new entry to the facility. And they did renovations to the existing building. Not really many changes to the current projects. The only real update would be to the Duval Rio Vista variance. We held a public hearing for that on April 8th. And we just had the decision from the hearing examiner issued today. And he approved it. Also, the Fullerton Monroe Gibney boundary line adjustment has been approved. Any questions on current projects?
Just have the one, the naturopathic, is the healthcare zone all the way that far south? Because you're past the Baptist church, right?
It's just past that church,
Yeah,
but they would need a conditional use for that space. Right? That's what the pre-app was for a conditional use permit. Because I think it's in the mixed use.
Go to the right.
Go steps.
It pretty much borders the health district there, right?
Yeah, I believe it's in the mixed use zone,
that's it, okay, thanks.
but Amy's pulling up a map.
Trying as quickly as I can.
For building permits, like I said, we had 0 single families issued and the building department conducted 141 inspections. As far as updates go, we have some exciting news. Everyone, please welcome Miss Katie Simpson. She's our new building permit tech. We're so happy to have her. She has joined us from the private sector where she worked for a permit software vendor. We are very excited to have her on our team. She's a very quick learner and she's eager to learn about planning commission stuff as well, so. Our building department has also received the Washington Association of Building Officials Jurisdictional Outreach Award for 2023. They were recognized for their hard work in creating handouts that are being used by many jurisdictions across the state for the new code requirements and forming a group of local building officials. They were recognized just on Thursday in Leavenworth. Our building official, Stacy Criswell, and Mayor Jeffrey Thomas were recognized at the annual award ceremony. So that was very exciting. They deserve it. They did a lot of hard work on those handouts and doing a lot of outreach with local municipalities. For code enforcement, in March, we had 2 open cases and 8 resolved cases. And just some information sharing, Kevin in code enforcement has met with Rachel Adams, over in human services, to discuss community outreach in conjunction with code enforcement. They have some additional resources to include peer support specialists, who seeks out and connects with folks in Monroe who are in need. The police department also has 2 new community services officers, Officer Haverly and Officer Johnston, who will be working with Kevin on code enforcement cases. So those are roles that we've been waiting to get filled for a while now, so we're very happy to have them on board.
Randy, do you have a?
I do have a question about that area.
Yeah.
So those officers, they have, that's not their full-time work, it's just working with code enforcement and going out seeking, people to help. Is that true? They're just specially trained in that, or is that really what their full 40 hours do?
For the police or for community outreach with the human services?
Well, the 2 officers, I guess, first.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
They do parking enforcement, animal enforcement, and other code enforcement.
And then the Rachel Adams with the code enforcement, so that would probably mean that somebody who's having calls about their fence that's broken or a tarp that's covering their roof or whatever, that hooking that person up with services that might be able to find like homage or somebody who does volunteer services to help fix, to get them in compliance. That's more what that's about.
Yeah, and I called Kevin, our code enforcement tech, I called him earlier to get some clarification on what that little section meant. And it's really a lot of information sharing. So if he recognizes that there is someone that could use human services, then he'll put them in contact with Rachel. So it's more of expanding our outreach between departments. So, yeah, thank you. Business licenses, 60 new business licenses and 143 renewals. These are the new business license applications for brick and mortars that we received. One of them is Sushi Spot.
And I'm just a little excited.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. And then no updates to the comprehensive plan section from February to March. It's just the same guiding principles that you guys have seen before. And then in the annexations, Amy, can you provide an update on the Monroe 30?
Yes, it went forward to city council, for consideration. City council authorized that they move forward with, that they authorized the applicant to go out and get the 60% signatures. So of the assessed value of the land, they need to gain signatures from landowners that own 60% or more in value to be able to move forward with the annexation. And so at this time, we're waiting on the applicants to come back with that.
Anyone have questions on March's report?
Thanks very much, Hannah. Okay, next item up, discussion by commissioners and staff, and we'll start with folks on Zoom. Liz?
Thanks for the great presentations. I apologize. I still don't have a voice. It's been a month. But great presentations. I appreciate all the information. And I am gonna be going to economic development on Thursday, kind of as a follow-up from some previous pandemic discussions relating to coordinating well, getting more feedback from our diverse community that maybe we're still getting some gaps. So I would, if anybody has any feedback on how they think or feel that things have improved or aren't improving, if that's the case as well, if you guys could email me, I'd appreciate it. That meeting's Thursday at 8. So I'm just reaching out for more information to see how other community members are viewing things that I am seeing too. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Liz. Bob?
Yes, thanks. Great presentation, staff. You really fleshed that out, and it makes more sense to me now. Also, thanks to Ms. Davis for coming and speaking to us. We always appreciate public input. I also attended the Parks Board meeting specifically to hear their input on the Parks and Open Space element of our comprehensive plan, and unfortunately, they never got to any kind of really formal input. It was mostly educational for them to understand what the process was. Perhaps we'll get some input from them in their next meeting. I will follow up with that. But I think it's important to listen to our other advisory groups to hear what their input might be, particularly those boards and commissions that are specialists in their field. Thanks, staff. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bob. Lance, are you on?
I am. I don't really have anything to add. I guess one thing, if it hasn't been mentioned, we did get a submittal for a development agreement application for the PUD for them to move forward on the First Airfield project. So staff will be processing that over the next couple of months. And that's all that I've got.
Great. Thanks a lot. Kelsey?
I did public comment on Monday or Tuesday, I don't know when it was, for the city council meeting about just commenting on if dispensaries should be allowed in our town or not. And I know that they would like to have some feedback from the city, whether you're for it or against it, on like if our town wants that in city limits. So if you have any comments on that, please talk to them. They're discussing it. I'm not sure if they're having a vote soon. I'm under the impression that they can vote that in at any time, but I'm not sure the process. So did some research on it, and it would bring some income into the city and also provide some resources for people that need that, but they need to hear something from us. And also been spending some time at the river. If you haven't been down there, these like sunny days, it's awesome. So get out, enjoy lovely Monroe, and that's all I have. Oh, and thank you and welcome. Yeah, thank you both for your presentation.
Thanks, Kelsey. Carla?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add now. Thank you for the presentation. It's always great information and hearing the different questions and the answers are awesome. You know, it really helps clarify some issues and know what's going on. So thank you.
Randy?
I'm excited that 2 of the ADUs were 2 of the pre-application meetings, and that's even before any law change. We're having, even less barriers for people to do that. I happen to think that we are gonna see an uptake of that because multi-generational living, hard to make your mortgage payments, wanting to live around people that you know and like and care for. So that's cool. And then sort of off of also what Kelsey said, I've been out and about a lot and I'm seeing multimodal uses of our streets, even before us upgrading to any of our enhanced streets. And it shows me that there really is a need for it and we can kind of see what patterns people are using for where we see more people walking about and biking and running. And it just looks like a fun community lately, because of the nice weather and of course the lighter, it's staying light later. So it's safer, compared to when you're trying to walk or ride a bike at 7 p.m. on October. But, only positive stuff tonight. I think, thank you very much for everything, and that's all I got.
Thanks. Just wanted to say thanks to commissioners. Having everyone here consistently at most meetings is very helpful to get things pushed through and get everybody to understand, you know, what we're trying to do and ask the questions that need to be asked and get results that we need to get. So thank you for your attendance. Welcome, Katie. Appreciate you being here. Planning group is really solid, so hang out with them.
It's been really great so far.
Melanie?
Yeah, I was gonna say, welcome Katie, happy to have you here. Hopefully nobody's giving you too hard of a time.
Not yet.
I wouldn't expect them to. They're a great group of people. Thank you to staff for coming back with more information and answering questions. It's much appreciated as always. And thank you to fellow commissioners. I'm enjoying the nice weather. Baseball season has started for Sky Valley Little League, so both my older kids had their first baseball games this weekend. We were at Park Place Middle School and Sky River Park, and then the storm came in like the middle of my 6-year-old's baseball game, and it actually got scary. It was a situation I haven't experienced, because we were on the field sitting under one of the big trees at Sky River, and luckily the game was ending as it was, because they would have, I don't know if we would have gone one more inning, but we were done because branches were flying like from the tree and the kids were getting pelted with dust. I hadn't experienced that before, and so, but we had a group, we do have one of our local police officers is a parent on one of the teams that was there, and so he was making sure all the kids like, don't go under the tree, let's go around the field, and so, it all happened really quick, and then we drove back home and we walked through our neighborhood, or went through our neighborhood, and there was a tree that had split in half and fallen onto a car, so I was like, well, wind came in with a little bit of a vengeance, but, yeah, other than that, it's been really nice weather, and so I've been enjoying Monroe, and we'll be out and about more often, because we're about to get a dog, little puppy from our family in 2 weeks, so we're very excited. But other than that, yeah.
Thank you. Amy?
I don't really have anything. I just wanted to follow up on the question regarding the medical office and the medical uses. So, that's correct, where the city hall, temporary city hall is located, that's the medical mixed use, and then just south where the church is and further south is mixed use general. And so those types of uses require a conditional use permit, which is why they came in for the pre-application.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kate?
I have just a couple of items for, actually Jay and Brandy. We do have a CAC meeting on Thursday, 7 o'clock here. Alex will be present, and I believe Hannah sent agendas out today. So walking through goals and policies for housing, land use, and economic development, I believe is what's being presented. Also, I was at council last Tuesday and gave the introduction to the housing element. It was a good conversation. I received some comments from council members today, so just working through that process. I also asked the consulting team kind of where we're at, because the pieces that I feel most people are concerned about are not in the document yet, and that's the income, housing distribution by income, and also racial equity, and mitigating and dissuading displacement. So hopefully within the next 3 weeks, we'll have another version to come through with more information and policies specific to the new tasks of the Growth Management Act. So that's coming. And then let's see here. Kelsey's question. So if the city council, I just want to give you a 411, if the city council chooses that marijuana is an acceptable use in Monroe, it actually comes through planning commission first. It's a code amendment. So it would start with the planning commission, kind of same, it's the same process we're talking about right now with downtown. And then whatever the planning commission recommendation is, then it goes to city council. But as a reminder, city council pretty much dictates what the work is here outside of us keeping compliant with state law.
So if people don't, go to them and ask them for that to happen, that can just be tabled for however long they want to.
Well, under our current code, it's not a permitted use anywhere in the city of Monroe. The city chose to take that path. Gosh, is that over a decade ago now? I'm losing track of time. So unless the rules change, marijuana dispensaries will not be permitted in the city of Monroe. And my understanding is that there are 2 licenses that were initially identified for the city, but they cannot be used. Well, I got.
Thank you, Kate. Don't want to put you on the spot, Katie, but if you want to tell us a little bit about your background or how you ended up applying at the city and.
I work for Baco Software as a implementation specialist for permitting software. And then I decided that I wanted to be a building permit technician, and I just kind of went for it. This is kind of a change.
Awesome.
That's all.
Anna?
It's not work related, but mine never is. On May the 4th, it's a Saturday, both the Monroe Garden Club and the Monroe High School are having their plant sales. So get there early because the good plants go quick, and the Monroe High School has the most amazing fuchsia baskets. They are absolutely beautiful. I get them every year, so check it out. It's at the Monroe High School is for the Monroe High School's horticulture club. And then, so it's like plants that the students grow, and then the Monroe Garden Club's at the senior center. So, May 4th.
Otherwise known as Star Wars Day.
Yes, I take it very seriously. That's all I have.
Thanks, Anna.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Carla. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Stay safe.